Alright, what's up? So, we're practically midway through the 2017 spring anime season, and already most people have decided what shows they're sticking with and what shows they're dropping. Because most episode 6s have already come out, and that's pretty good establishing point as whether or not you're deciding to stick with a show or not. And as everyone else has already fucking had their own, tirade over what they've decided, so have I. But I'm gonna go a little bit deeper into why I think these shows are the way they are, and why I dropped a few of them, and why I'm watching some others. One thing to remember, I'm skipping a few. I'm not watching every show this season, mostly because I didn't like Shingeki no Bahamut, Virgin Soul. I didn't watch season 1, and How to Raise a Boring Girlfriend or whatever. I didn't watch that season 1. So those two I'm not watching. Those are their own thing. I'm only doing shows that I'm interested in, and either watch the first season of or whatever. Anyway, I'm gonna start with the most popular ones, using the rating on MyAnimeList.com, which is the best way to just kind of wager how these shows are viewed. Of course, it's only a portion, because there's people on MyAnimeList, there's people on Reddit, there's people on 4chan, there's people on YouTube, and not everyone is going to be on MyAnimeList. But MyAnimeList sort of condenses all those statistics into an easy, sort of obvious format, and that's ultimately what I'm seeking. Just something to tell me which shows are most popular, because it's not going to be really far off anyway. MyAnimeList, a lot of people use it. It's not going to be far off, regardless. Also, this is going to be a pretty long video, so I'm going to put in the description the time codes for the specific shows, just so you don't have to watch the whole thing if you just want me to talk about one certain show. And it's going to be kind of in-depth, my thoughts about each show after 6 episodes, which I think pretty much wagers pretty well whether or not the show is going to go in a certain direction, or whether or not it appeals to me, or maybe it will appeal to you. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. At the very top of the list, we have Attack on Titan Season 2, which at this point is like on the top 100 highest rated shows on MAL, which is fucking baffling, but at the same time, not surprising at all. I mean, Attack on Titan is a powerhouse. It's pretty obvious that everyone who even remotely enjoyed the first season is gonna give it like an 8 or a 10 after one episode, because the show has like an 8.68, which is unbelievably high. Which is ridiculous. People should not grade shows after an episode. People should not put a score on a show after one episode. You should watch the whole thing, because then you can collect your thoughts about the show and accurately, analyze it and think about it, and then you can grade it based on what you thought about it. But these fucking idiots are already giving it like masterpiece scores, which is ridiculous. I mean, you can give it a masterpiece. I don't care if you think it's a masterpiece, but don't give it a masterpiece until you fucking finish it, please. Anyway, back to Attack on Titan. The show's a fucking clusterfuck. It seriously tries unbelievably hard to be as intense, as mind-blowing as possible, with just hilariously stupid twists in every episode. It seriously tries as hard as it can. There's nothing I can say about it other than that. It's just trying to be intense over this plot that it has no structure to it. It has no solidity. There's nothing happening. There is nothing happening in the story except for the twists. There's a bunch of talking in between the twists. There's a bunch of dumb action in between the twists, and then the twists happen. And then everybody fucking talks about the twists, and that's all they talk about. It's bullshit. But you know what? I don't care. It's the most popular show this season. Of course I'm watching it, because I watched the first season. And it's the most popular show. And it's just a crazy popcorn romp, and that's all I'm gonna take it as. Pretty easy to digest. That's all I'm gonna take with it. I'm not gonna expect anything of it. I'm just gonna sit back and veg out as I watch it, because my god, that's all I gotta do with that show. Next is Boku no Hero Academia, which is not surprising, because the first season was very popular. The manga is very popular, even though I personally found it on the staler side of the shonen action stuff, but anyway, it's okay. The thing with this one, which kind of irked me, is that it's 25 episodes long. And I like my short shows. I like my 12 episodes, 13 episodes, because I think they're more concise. I think they can sort of... I'm going to prove my opinion of this by talking about specifically My Hero Academia Season 1. Because the first season actually benefited it from it being short, since it was concise, it was tightly written, and it was all sort of part of this one arc that expanded over the entire season, and it started and ended well. It's just exactly that. And now it's 25 episodes, so there's gonna be mini arcs, there's gonna be more complicated stuff, and I feel like all that really detriments from the show when it's just a perfectly serviceable, fun battle action show. And that's it. That's all it is. It has a cool premise. It has some passionate characters, some really intense moments, and that's all you need. You don't need to be this overspending epic. It just needs to be simple and calm. Well, not calm, but like just simple. That's all it needs to be. When it tries to expand it, and I know the manga's been going on for years, and people are talking about it. They're hyping it up. I'm not convinced. Nothing that's happened is overly crazy. It's a basic tournament art in Season 2. The characters are all the same as in Season 1. The only thing is that they're kind of using their powers for more creative stuff, which is what I was hoping for, which they have that's what we were promised, and that's what we're getting. More popular, fuck, I'm mixing my words. More creative and interesting action sequences with creative uses of powers and stuff like that. But otherwise, nothing mind-blowing. It's just, again, more popcorn entertainment, which is sadly what the two most popular shows this season are. Which kind of frustrates me, because I wanted to see a weird show be up there at the top, like, I don't know, like in previous seasons when that was the case. But now we get two most popular shows of all time, or at least one of them is one of the most popular ones. The other one's really fucking popular. Those two are hogging the top two spots, which is kind of boring, because everything else is just kind of meh, and there's not really a show that's like universally considered amazing. With next season though, we have New Game Season 2, which I expect to be as good as Season 1. Season 1 was good. Again, cute girls doing cute things, but we're getting out of party. And the other part is Owari Monogatari Season 2, which I expect to be fucking amazing, because all the other Monogatari series have been mind-blowing, and every single one has been fantastic. But anyway, Boku no Hero Academia is the second most popular show right now on MAL, and expected. It's way better than Attack on Titan anyway, which is good. On a rather high popularity mark, we got Akashic Records on 3rd place. The light novel adaptation by Leiden Films, which is very strange and very surprising, because I remember a lot of people were talking about the fact that they were going to skip it because it just looked like a generic high school harem light novel show. Hell, I expected it to be shit, but it turns out it's a slightly above average. It's like if I were to put it in a score, it would be as of right now a mid to high 6. It's fine. It has some good stuff to it. You know, the main character is cut from a different cloth from regular battle shonen and other battle harem high school light novel shows of recency. He's definitely different. He's definitely not just a fucking idiot. He kind of has a little smart to him. He's assertive, boastful, which makes him not completely vapid. That's all I'm asking for. It's just a main character that isn't just boring and lifeless. He has a life to him. He has a past. That's all I'm asking for. And it's good, you know? It kind of explores it, and it's going to dive deeper into its past. That's pretty good. That was pretty surprising. I did not expect that from the show, and it's definitely giving me a above average protagonist. Even though, other than that, he's just not really anything. Also, something I really like. The magic system seems touched up. It's solidly built. It seems like an actual magic system. There's a lot of explaining going on, but it's the type of explaining about the magic system that makes it feel real. Yeah, that's honestly all I can say about it. And yeah, fan service is there. I mean, there's stupid walk-in scenes and there's other stupid shit. I'm sorry I'm moving my glasses, but they slide down because my nose doesn't work with glasses on, but I prefer glasses anyway. Whatever. The uniforms are hilariously stupid, and while I love them, they're dumb. They're really fucking dumb. Supposedly the reason why they show the stomach and they wear the garter belts is because the girls, if they show more skin, they're better attuned with it's bullshit. They're better attuned with magic with it. It's bullshit. It's just to show these girls in these really stupid outfits that are just filled with fan service. It's dumb as fuck. And the plot, the story is just kind of meh. I mean, it's trying to be like this political stuff, but it's not really being political. Like it tries to be political, and it tries to pass off as being political, but it's not. It's really simple. The thing is, it's fun, it's lighthearted, there's not much happening in it other than that. It's maintained my interest for the 6 episodes that I've gone through, and I will continue to watch it unless it just completely bores me, which is still not happening. I'm still kind of invested in what's going on, and specifically in the main character. Girls are cute. The class has, like, each student in the class has his own distinct personality and design. Hell, in 4chan they've already given each one of them like a board. Like the kid with glasses is /A, and the girl with the twin tails is /JP, and they always complain. It's really funny. Half of the fun of these most popular shows is just going on the forums and just seeing how people react. That's half the fun of it. And I'm gonna keep watching it. Doesn't take itself 100% seriously, and it's a lot more serviceable than the completely shit show that I expected it to be, so I'll definitely keep watching it. Alright, the next one is the biggest one this whole season for me personally, because I fucking love the experience of watching this show. The show's Eromanga-sensei. And if you have been seeing my channel, even though it has like 7 fucking videos, I have this sort of show. Every 3 weeks or every 3 episodes, I release this sort of compilation of my thoughts about the show. The first one was kind of a hit. I mean, it was kind of a hit in the sense that the show hit me, and it was better than I expected it to be. Because it had some moments of fun, and I sort of just enjoyed the experience of it. After checking back and watching the first 3 episodes again, I completely dispelled it. The show is trash. The show is fucking awful. But it is so much fun to watch that's exclusively why I keep watching. I completely acknowledge the fact that it's the same thing as Oreimo, and even though I love Oreimo and it's a good show in my opinion, I already explained that in my comparison with Toradora. But Oreimo was fun. It had a sense of fun, and the production was well-rounded, and it had these fun characters. And that's all I asked of it. That's all it had. This, though, is a completely dry, just soulless show with nothing going on in it aside from just 100% pandering. It's fucking insanity. And everyone loves it. Everyone on Reddit, on 4chan, on fucking YouTube, everybody loves it. It has like a high 7. It's crazy how many people like this show. Because they're not willing to just notice that it's complete trash, or at least they justify the high scores by saying it's fun when they don't actually deserve it. The show doesn't deserve high scores because it's not a good show. It's not a show that breaks standards. It's not a show that's creative or interesting in any way. Simply shock value. It's all the show has. It has shock value. It has a lot of fan service, a lot of shocky fan service, because Sage's fucking 12 years old. That's all it has. That's all it has. It's fan service, raunchy, shocky comedy, and that's it. There's nothing to it. Except for occasional pieces of creative comedy and maybe a moral, but that moral is just completely, it's mentioned once and then completely forgotten. Like, nobody cares. Elf talked about the moral and then nobody cares about it anymore. It's completely forgotten. Back to the fan service, back to the stupid situations, back to the misunderstandings. That fucking confession scene in episode 5 was the most stupid shit I've ever seen in a show since DanMachi season 1. And that show is a fucking 2. So it's horrible. This show's probably gonna be either a 1 or a 2 out of 10 because it's just complete stale garbage. But you cannot possibly deny how much sheer fun people are having in this goddamn train wreck. It's absolutely fantastic in how terrible it is, and I enjoy every second of it, even though I know that it's nothing. The show's nothing. It hasn't really insulted me yet, which I'm waiting, because I'm waiting for the show to just take my brain and mush it to pieces. I want to be blown and angry in a way that I haven't been angry, and I was really fucking angry at episode 5, and I hope it continues to make me angry, because I love being angry at it. It's really fun. And again, half the fun of it is just going on 4chan and fucking watching everything go insane. Yeah, it's complete. There's no characters and plot. Complete lack of structure and pacing. The episodes, they either feel really long or really short. There's no sense of anything. It tries to do the whole moving from comedy to drama thing really quickly, like stuff like Angel Beats or Kyoran Kazuki Nikki or fucking Futakoi Alternative. But it fails completely because the comedy itself is so heavy-handed and so just in your face, like, here, it's funny, that it's not funny. It's just abrasive and out of control. There's no punchline to any of the shows. It's just characters being flustered and misunderstandings, and that's what it passes off as comedy. Occasional moments of hilarious insanity, otherwise nothing to it. And when it tries to be dramatic, it comes off as ridiculous, because it doesn't reach the peaks of drama when that stuff like Angel Beats has tried to do. This show is a complete mess, and it's one of the funnest shows this season. I'm watching it till the end. I don't even care. I cannot wait for it's the single most excited I am for a show this season is Eromanga-sensei, simply because I want to see how insane it is. And yeah, come on, watch this to the end. Laugh a little bit. It's fun. It's stupid. It's shit. It's crazier every week. I'm not watching Boruto. Don't fucking care about Naruto. Again, don't even care. Oh, okay. Up next is DanMachi, or I forgot the fucking English name. It's the sort about sorry, it's a show about the. It had Hestia in it the first season. What the fuck is it called? Oh my god, give me a second. I have it right here. I should be able to just pop it. How to pick up? Is it wrong to pick up girls in a dungeon? Which the first season was one of my least liked shows of all time. Give a show 2 out of 10. It's horrible, and I explained all that in my 30-minute rant. The spin-off though seems to borrow none of what made that show frustrating to watch, and now it's just utterly boring. There's nothing in this show. There's nothing going on. There's weird fights. There's the lesbian elf is just like, what? Is she the protagonist? I thought Ice was gonna be the protagonist. And Ice herself is just completely bland character. There's nothing to her. She's a sack of fucking flesh that uses a sword. That's all she is. There's nothing to Ice. And the rest of the crew, because we've just met them here, they expect us to care about them? No, I'm not gonna fucking care about them, because they were assholes in the first season. They were side characters who were forgettable and assholes. The first season was about this faggot, whatever his name is, Glenn or Ben or whatever the fuck his name is, the white-haired kid, and Hestia. That was the first season. And now there's a complete spin-off for season 2, which has none of the main characters except Ice that the first season had. And there's no point in it whatsoever. There's no point for this to exist. I hate the fact that this fucking exists, because it's just shilling for cash and for views, because first season was the most popular show of that season it came out in, for no reason. Just it's terrible. There's nothing to it. The story for the first couple of episodes is completely disconnected with the second couple. Like episode 1 through 3 is like a weird pseudo arc, but it's not really established as one. It's just sort of characters walking and talking and doing something. Again, it's like Eromanga. It's like Attack on Titan, in the sense that there's nothing going on. It's just characters talking and then action and then more talking and then more action, which connects none of them. And there's no overarching plot over any of what's going on. In the second half, they tried integrating one, which was like a murder mystery, but it was out of nowhere. Like it was episode 4, and it literally started with a guy being murdered by a girl, by like a woman after he was having sex with her, and that's the murder. Like we know who the woman is, and now we have this murder mystery that makes no sense, and that has no point, because this show has no business in being a murder mystery, and it's gonna fail being a murder mystery. It's completely unnecessary, bland and forgettable, as I've been said. I know I've repeated myself, but come on. The show's super bland. Of course I'll finish it, because I practically swore an oath to finish this whole show. This show for me is like Digibro and Sword Art Online. I just have to watch it. I have to watch DanMachi and everything DanMachi, because I fucking hate it, and I'm angry every time I watch it. I just have to see how bad it truly gets. Alright. The next one's Recreators. It's one that a lot of people are calling anime of the season already. And I can understand why. It's by Studio Troika, who are famous for Aldnoah Zero, which I haven't watched, but it's kind of divided. It's not really either good or bad in the eyes of many. It's just kind of there. Anyway, it's a completely original anime show. It wasn't based off of anything. And it's kind of fascinating, actually, because of the fact that it's reverse isekai, which isn't really that popular. There's been a few in, like, way back, but reverse isekai isn't something that's being done a lot. And it's something that's much more meta than actual isekai, because something that's been sort of wandering about the show is a sort of meta commentary about the nature of fiction and the nature of creating universes in our world, and how those universes have their own set of rules and their own sort of culture that is that, which is not real, because it's not the real world, but it's its own fictional universe with its own functioning society and its own people with their own motivations and history, which is fascinating. I think it's very early to call it like a deconstruction of the isekai genre, because there hasn't really been any direct commentary about, you know, fiction and isekai shows and anime and all this like fiction stuff in general. And it's only 6 episodes have come out of its total of 22, so a lot of it will happen. Like, there's still way more time that this show has to fill out. But after 6 episodes, it's really solid. The characters are all... they're all anime tropes, but they're anime tropes with depth. Like, you have the main red-haired girl who's like an action star, or like an action hero or heroine in this case, and she has sort of this fun personality. Nothing stand off like that stands out about her. She's just kind of fun and badass. And the other girl, what's her name? I don't know their names because I'm really bad with names. But the one with the short, sort of bowl silver hair, she's a fucking exposition machine. But that kind of makes sense. I will forgive it for that, because when something this meta and this kind of complicated comes up with this many characters and this many like political like undertones and societal undertones, you have to kind of explain the whole situation of what's going on, which I understand and I will forgive. And the action scenes, beautifully animated. The show looks great. The character designs are all fantastic. I have faith in it. What we've seen so far is pretty good. It's also very cool to see how the show's version of the real world that has created all these fake universes is dealing with the situation. Meaning that the people in the real world have no fucking idea what's going on, and they're scrambling to try to see if they make sense of it, which is always fun. And it's an interesting take because it shows like the political side of the world actually failing to come up with a situation of these goddamn alien creatures that are breaking the fucking laws of physics every time they sneeze. It's crazy. It has potential to be really deep, or more deep in the sense of meta. It has potential in being a lot bigger in the action scale, because there's a new character that has a big fuck-off realistic military mecha, which is really cool. A lot of it is commentary about the genres themselves. Like there's a lot of commentary on the mecha genre by the character who is the pilot of the robot. There's a lot of commentary on the magical girl. Like there's one scene in episode either 2, 3, or 4 that the main cast is fighting with this magical girl, and the magical girl beats the shit out of the main girl with the red hair, and the main girl starts bleeding, and the magical girl just kind of gets shocked. She's like, "Holy shit! Like that isn't supposed to happen. Like blood. That's not supposed to happen when I fight you." That's kind of indirect commentary of it, and that's really fascinating. Again, though, it's particularly expository, especially in the first couple episodes. Again, it's understandable. With very fascinating topics that it already has and could discuss in the future. I'm really looking forward to Recreators. It took me a bit because I was a little just kind of gathering my bearings in the first couple episodes, but now that it's starting to pick up and we're starting to know more about who this military girl who's literally playing a Tommy gun like a violin, it's fucking cool design, what she's doing, what her point is, what her ultimate motivation is. It's interesting. Definitely a golden nugget of the season, one of the highest rated ones that I can give. We'll continue to watch it until the very end. Pick that up. Recreators, really fun. The next one is Renai Boukun, which I love. This show's great, and I'm glad it's on the top like 6 or 7 of the most popular shows, because it's legitimately funny, using some very smartly written sequential punchline humor. A lot of that I've noticed about the show is that they start off with this really quirky and fun punchline that's a good joke that flows and has, you know, timing, and it's of course they're mostly raunchy and kind of romantic in that sort, but they're all funny. Like most shows in the show are funny, and then they follow up those shows with a twist on it that makes it even funnier, and sometimes they add a third layer and third follow-up to the double joke that happened before, which makes it even funnier. This show's had me laughing out loud from, oh god, I'm disgusting. This show's had me laughing out loud for minutes on end with no stop. Really quality writing, and that's the main appeal of the show. The character designs are cool. Akane is one of the best yanderes I've ever seen, because she balances yan and dere in a way that's pleasant, and you like she's enough yan to where her dere isn't overpowering. Like if she were more dere than yan, she wouldn't be a yandere character, because she wouldn't be dere enough. She wouldn't be yan enough. And she's not so yan that she can't function as a girlfriend to the main character. So it's the perfect balance between yan and dere, and it just works. She's a great character, probably the best of the show. Episodes divided into 2 sections, which I think serves the show in a great way, because the comedy is so fast-paced and the writing is so like quick and snappy, that dividing the episodes into 11-minute halves, it's perfect, because they're self-contained little short stories that provide the initial, you know, setup of the situation, provide a lot of jokes, and then a really funny punchline, and it's always funny. The writing is tight, it's self-contained, and the show moves very quickly, and that's great about it. There's not a single dull moment in the show as of right now. It's one thing that kind of frustrates me is that in episode 2 it kind of went into a more dramatic sense, which is not what it's really good at. It just kind of felt out of the way, and it took me out of the comedy of it, because they tried to do something dramatic, but everything else is just fast-paced, comedic, really fun. What else? What else can I say about it? Nothing. I mean, that's pretty much it. The whole premise is fun. The whole Kiss Note thing is fascinating to me, and they always make jokes about it. And anyway, I'm repeating myself again. You're gonna notice that I repeat myself a lot, mostly because I love repetition and emphasis on points I make. I think it increases the value of the points, or it increases the amount of energy that I can put out about the points, which shows just how passionate I am, and I love repetition. Anyway, that's a must-watch for the season, in my opinion. Really funny. Sadly, it's not rated the highest. It has like a 7.1 in Mal, which I really hate. The show's like a solid 8. The show is as funny as Konosuba, and in my opinion, like, it's just shy of Konosuba, where it's not as creative as it with its situations and its overarching like narrative, but it is as funny as Konosuba, and it has that level of quality put into it as much as Konosuba has. Konosuba is like a high 8, like barely 9, while this is a light 8. They're both 8, but they're really solid shows, both of them. 1 second. My voice is a little coarse, so I'm just going to be drinking some water. Okay. Next show I want to talk about is Zero Kara Hajimeru Mahou no Show, or Fortune calls Furry Bait. It's kind of appropriate because there's a lot of furries in the show. Which is the show about Zero, the what I like to call the super hot, barely lolly, but not quite lolly, because she's tiny, and she's big enough to not be a lolly, but small enough to where most other girls are not as small as her. It's weird. I don't know. I really like Zero. Her design is great. Her personality is great. I'll talk about it a little bit later, but anyway, the other protagonist is the huge tiger dude, which is Yohai. I think it's his name. Yeah, it's Yohai. He's great because he's, you know, he has his dark past. He has this sort of bleak outlook on the world. So sort of don't trust anybody. The earth is cynical, type of that. I like cynical characters because I'm a cynic, and he's kind of very relatable about just the brutality of the world that he's living in. But he's nice, you know. He still sort of likes to maintain order, even though he's a bit nihilistic, which is kind of how I live my life. And that's always interesting to see in a character. Plus, his design is great. It's memorable. He passes the silhouette test immediately, especially because he's just a big fucking tiger dude. Really fucking cool. It's striking. It's powerful. It's obvious. It's out there. It's nice. As for Zero, she's nonchalant, adorably stupid, and very vapid, but still very deadly and very serious when she wants to be. She's kind of that perfect balance between being like sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Like oblivious when she wants to be or when she needs to be for the sake of the comedy and the story, but also really knowledgeable when she needs to be as well. And they like those characterisms that she have seem realistic for her as a person, and that's something to admire, because a lot of the times it seems like protagonists kind of bounce really drastically between their two different personality types, whereas with Zero she feels really just realistic as a person, and I like to, at least I see it that way. Aside from the characters though, the world is just kind of boring. It doesn't feel really like a solid place that actually exists, even though they've gone through flashbacks of what the history of it is and kind of the basics of its human, beast, and witch relationship in society, but it hasn't clicked yet to where this world feels like a world. In comparison, I just finished watching Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, and that show feels like a world because they show a map and they show a distinct difference in region and in population and in mindset as to what each region thinks about each region, and in which region, like what their values are and their culture is, and that feels like a real country, whereas this just feels like a generic fantasy landscape with a little bit more depth to it. I just hope they kind of go deeper into that, because I'm interested to see how the world is, because the relationships are so interesting between these different cultures of people and beasts and witches, that I want to see it explored more. Otherwise, the plot is just above the threshold of being generic. There's some fucked up stuff that's happened, some really creative ways of people dying. The primary one being the dude that was just laying on the ground, whereas like all his torso and head was just a big concrete block, like perfectly square block. That was funny as shit. Some cryptic stuff about some characters that are coming up, and about this witch that was killed in her prime. Really powerful witch that kind of set everything in motion. I want to see where that goes and where that came from, and more history about that. It's probably the most just perfectly solid show this season. Nothing really about it blows my mind, or nothing really that I dislike. Stuff that I hope will continue to happen, and a definite one that I will continue to watch until the end, unless something really fucking stupid happens with the plot. Goddamn mosquitoes. But yeah, Zero Kara Hajimeru no Shou. Good stuff. Go watch it. I'm not watching, again, as I said, Sainai Heroi no Sota de Kata Flat, since I don't watch the first season, and I'm also not watching Shingeki no Bahamut's Virgin Soul, same reason. But these are again in the order of their most popular to the least popular in Mal. The next one that I'm going to talk about is Busou Shoujo Machiavellianism, which is the most barely above average and barely passable show in this whole season. It's got cute girls, it's a high school battle show, it's charismatic, arrogant MC. There's every trope imaginable, and it will continue to have every trope imaginable. There's nothing really creative about this show. I'm gonna be nice to it because I've managed to not be completely bored when watching it, miraculously, but that's pretty much like the show's. It's just kind of flat, and there's nothing really that speaks to me in a personality level. There's not really any personality to the show. It just kind of feels like another generic light novel romp. It's barely passing a 7 on Mal, and with good reason. It's by Silverlink, who I kind of have a grudge on, because their shows always seem to be on that sort of limbo between being so close to being actually good, but also being about to become bad. Like, they're in that mid spot where you're not really sure whether a show is good or not, and there's reasons to think it's gonna be good, and there's kind of reasons to think it's gonna drop back out into mediocrity, and it's always like a tease. Silverlink's like a cock tease studio, because all their shows are like that, or most of them. Because I just finished watching Yuri Kumarashi, and that's like a 7. It's a good show, but this just, it feels like a cock tease, because there's stuff that happens in it that is really creative and really distinct. Like in episode 5 or 6 recently, there's a scene where there's a bear fan service scene where the guy's like up against the wall against the bear that's like controlled by one of the girls, and he's like groping the bear's tits, and like the bear's getting all flustered. That was fucking hilarious, because I didn't expect it. Who would expect bear fan service? That's creative. But in that same episode, the main two girls, the black-haired girl with half of a demon mask, and the other girl with like the spirals in her blonde hair, they get flustered and really pissed off at the main guy over a fucking misunderstanding. That frustrates me. So that's the type of stuff I'm talking about. Whereas some parts of it are really creative, other parts of it are unbelievably frustrating and generic. I'll continue to watch it until it frustrates me to the point where I just don't care about it anymore. And right now, I care about it barely enough to where I want to keep continuing it. The potential's there. There's some golden nuggets of creativity. The romance is just bullshit. It's whatever. Nobody cares about the romance. There's nothing super dramatic in it. It's all kind of played for laughs, but it's barely passable. I'll finish it again. But I totally can understand why so many people have dropped it and why it's getting the rate it is. It's not a good show. It's just like kind of fine for now. show is SukaSuka, or oh, what the fuck is it called? It's the one with the long title that's like 3 questions, and it ends in it's abbreviated to WorldEnd. You probably know what I'm talking about anyway if you care at all about anime this season. And it's filled with the rainbow-haired lollies, which is my favorite part. I was actually pretty pleasantly surprised by this one, since it was from a studio that I had never heard about before, and it was a light novel adaptation. I was expecting it to be just another kind of regular harem fan service show, and I was already bracing for it to be like kind of a rocky landing, but it's proven to be pretty goddamn entertaining so far, with the aforementioned lollies being probably the cutest lollies this whole season, mostly because they're just kids, and kids are adorable for me. Idealized kids. Real kids are disgusting, but these kids are fun. Not to mention, there's this like underarching sense of tragedy to come, and I've heard on 4chan of people who read the light novel that there's a lot of dark, tragic shit that's gonna happen later, and I cannot wait for that to happen, because these first couple episodes have been nothing but lighthearted character interactions, a bit of romance subtext, characters, you know, just sort of talking about their future and inspirations and stuff, and it's kind of all inspiring and uplifting, and I want it to get absolutely crushing. I want it to make me pity everything. I want it to be as fucked up as possible. I cannot wait for that. I definitely want it to be a real tearjerker. What's probably the most fun interaction in this whole show, and the most fun part, is the main character, who is just kind of whatever, but the way he interacts with the lollies and these sort of girls, and treats him sort of like this father figure, is super fun to watch. And it's a passionate, you know, developing relationship between the girls and him. There's also a budding romance with the blue-haired warrior lady, and that's always fun to watch. It's honestly heartwarming. These first few episodes have been completely heartwarming, and again, I can't wait for it to get really dark and fucked up. And I want shit to hit the fan really hard. Definitely check this one out. There's definitely a lot of potential for this to be good. There's the character art and designs are passable to good. It has a lot of furries in it, and the world itself is pretty interesting. There's a lot of rock floating kind of cities to it. It's always cool. So yeah, definitely another like high tier show this season, which not a lot of people are watching. It's kind of on the mid tier of popularity, which kind of sucks. Let me adjust this a little bit because I'm laying back. So yeah, it's basically SukaSuka. Alright, next one. This one that a lot of people dropped immediately. Clockwork Planet. And I dropped it after 4 episodes. Can't take it anymore. The way that I describe this show is kind of funny, because we have these 2 incredibly likable protagonists. I mean, these two likable characters, which is the blonde lolly princess and her bodyguard, which are the most interesting characters in the show, and I root for them and what their goals are more than I do for the main characters. The two main characters, they are a little blue-haired kid, which is so fucking annoying. His voice is the worst. He screams like a bitch. He screeches as fuck and reacts like a baby. He's completely unlikable. He's a bad version of a kid. He's a kid which you despise and which you want to stab in the neck viciously. He also can't control his fucking puberty, because the main girl and the main marketing girl of the season, which is Ryuzu, the Clockwork Girl, it is nothing. She is a fucking sex slave, and that's all that she is. She does everything that the little boy wants. She gets embarrassed. She blushes and like flirts for some reason. Like, those scenes are awkward as all hell, because you know that she's a fucking robot. She has no emotions. She has no emotions. There's nothing happening with that. Having a robot do that just kind of makes the whole situation weird. Having this guy kind of like sexually attracted to this fucking robot, and like there's this weird like finger licking scene in the first episode, and there's strange fan service. The show's uncomfortable to watch with these two as the main characters. And how I see the plot is this kind of super high stakes, dumb, dramatic thing where 20 million people are gonna die if the main characters don't do anything. And you have these two likable characters, which are the lolly, blonde lolly, and the bodyguard, who are desperately trying to save the lives of these 20 million people. And they're desperately just like, God, we need to do this. And they are underpowered. The key to solving this show's plot problems are the two main characters, which are fucking insufferable. So what do you have? You have these two likable characters who are carrying the show, but the two main characters are the ones that are actually needed. So you have a lot of scenes where the two main characters are doing their own shit. They're having their own fucking fan service and stupid funny scenes, which are not funny. And then you have the other two main characters, the likable ones, that are just complaining and sighing all around. They're basically the viewer, who are looking at these fucking idiot protagonists and being like, could you please stop doing this shit? We need to focus on the plot. And that's how I feel about this show. The main characters completely ruin everything. What else? The stakes are too high. 20 million people, what the fuck is that? The villains are killing 20 million people. Why? Because of a little statistical upgrade? That's bullshit. That's not... That kills all investment and all sense of realism, and it just kills my... oh god, what's the fucking phrase? You know what I mean. I don't need to explain myself with this show. It's laughable. It's honestly laughable. The show looks like it was made in 2002. It's blocky, staticky, and lacking any kind of flow or weight to it. The character designs feel immediately dated and old as fuck. And they're like weirdly horizontally stretched, like their faces are just kind of wider than they are rounder or longer. It looks like shit. Look, I've heard that the light novel is pretty good. If you're reading the light novel and you like it, you might be able to pass the show off. But as a newcomer to the series, it does not do any favors for it. And I'm not interested in it at all. Dropped it immediately. I don't give a shit. Next is Grand Blue Fantasy, which I'm not watching because I never played the games or done anything with the franchise before, so I don't give a shit. One that was utterly unsurprising is the next one is Sakurada Reset. Many have given it shit due to the totally bland and robotic characters, even though the premise could be interesting. And there are definitely some creative moments, like in episode 4, where the guy kind of uses the reset powers and this other girl's powers to make some weird fucked up shit happens. He dies in the progress and then gets reincarnated, and that was really creative, and I was honestly shocked by how creative that scene was, but it's the only like interesting scene in the whole show. Everything else is so dragged out and so boring that you're not invested. You don't care, because you have 15-minute scenes of characters sitting around talking about the situation with no flair, no visual anything to it, no vocal variety, and no emotion. These characters, they have nothing to them. The main two guys, they're fucking stupid as shit, because they feel nothing. They don't have any emotional stakes in what's going on. They do it purely for the sake of service. They have no emotional investment in anything, so why would we have any emotional investment in it? They talk in this monotone thing, and they just talk like this all the time, and they look off into the distance as they talk to one another. It's so baffling how boring it is. They talk like fucking mummies. The show looks like shit, even though it's animated by the studio that does JoJo, which is insanity, because JoJo looks fucking great all the time. And this show just looks like crap. It just looks like absolute shit. And there's nothing to it. it's draining. It's straining. The episodes feel like they're 40 minutes long. I know I'm repeating myself, but come on. What else? Like, if you don't care and if you like your slow, boring shows, you're gonna find some characters with cool, like, abilities that they possess, quirky abilities that are just kind of convenient for no reason. Because it's a town where people have random abilities, so we can just pull an ability out of our ass that just solves the whole situation. It's kind of frustrating. Yeah, man. This show's nothing. I thought it was gonna be just kind of bland and forgettable. There's this character in the first episode which is voiced by fucking Yuki Aoi, one of my favorite voice actresses. And she's in that first episode and she does the most, like, vivid performance because she's fucking Yuki Aoi, and they kill her off at the end of the first episode. She never appears. She never appears again. And you expect me to sit back and watch the show for 22 fucking episodes? This bore fest? No. No. There's no way. Just, like, if you like the type of stuff, go watch it. It is not for me. It is not for me. I need some more excitement. I need more shit going on, and there's not enough shit going on in this episode to bore. Let's go. The next show that I want to talk about is Quan Zhi Gao Shou, or otherwise known as the Chinese esports show, or the show about an MMORPG. I mean, it's Chinese, and this was a tricky one because this was a legitimately great show. Like, this is a solid 8 out of 10 show as far as I'm watching it, and people are already putting it like it's one of the highest, like, original shows this whole season. And it's a sleeper hit because of it. It requires some level of dedication in order to watch it, because there's slow scenes and there's kind of video game lingo and MMORPG lingo, which is accurate. The show's kind of like the anti-SAO, and the Pedantic Romantic already did a video about why this show is the anti-SAO. It's a great video, go watch it. But he's right. This show manages to capture the aura of MMORPGs and esports in a way that I have never seen the show do. And it's really fascinating because of it. Because it's really realistic. And as a player of, not necessarily MMORPGs, but knowledgeable enough about video games to where I understand how MMORPGs work, it's really good. And it's a solidly built game, and it makes sense as a video game above a narrative vehicle, which is what I needed from this, which it does really well. It's a lot of downtime, especially the first couple episodes, because you gotta establish the relationships with the characters and where the main esports, like, character man is in his life. And it's very slow at the first, but it picks up, and whenever the scenes are in the actual game, it's always fun. It's always interesting. You know, the action scenes are pretty well done. The animation's pretty solid. There's a sense, there's a sense of real gaminess to it, to where everything that's going on makes sense as a game standpoint, and it always makes it more interesting. Because I could totally see this as a live stream event, or as a, you know, series of Let's Plays, where he's just kind of playing the game, and it makes sense. And it's just a solid show with, you know, some good sequences of action and an overarching plot of kind of redemption and coming back up from the bottom and underdog type stuff. So why did I drop it? Because I dropped it after 4 episodes. I don't want to watch this shit anymore. Why is that? I don't really have a reason. If I can narrow it down, it's mostly lack of investment. It's mostly I really don't care about the situation that's going on. From an outsider's perspective, I can definitely see its quality and can understand why people are liking the show and giving it such a high rating. But personally, I'm not invested in it at all. This show, for me, is just sitting through text on a screen. It's just sitting through like a journal or like a news article. You know, I can admire the news article for how well it's written and how well it portrays its themes and ideas, but it's not a emotionally investing piece for me, which is first and foremost what I want from a show. It's to me emotionally investing above everything else, which is not for me. That's the only reason why I can't really connect to it, why I dropped it, because I don't really want to continue with it. There's no point for me. But you should definitely watch it if you're the fan of the genre, and if you're looking for a video game-esque show and a sort of video game thing, which is not Jin no Guardian, because Jin no Guardian is terrible, and you should not watch Jin no Guardian. You should watch this. If you thought about watching Jin no Guardian, watch fucking Quan Zhi Gao Shou, because it's good, and it's a good show. Hidden gem of the season, definitely. Even though personally I dropped it, I can definitely see its appeal after 4 episodes, and can definitely recommend it to most people. Really good show. Check it out. Next is one of my favorites of the season, Shingeki, or people like to call it Tsukigakire, even though it's pronounced ski, because it's as in love or moon, Shingeki. Anyway, it's just Japanese pronunciation. Or the English title, which is my favorite, As the Moon So Beautiful. I think that's really swift and really sweet how it's called in English, and I prefer that title over the Japanese one any day, but people are just calling it Shingeki. The show is just unbelievably cute, warm, calming, and fulfilling. It's about middle school love, but it's done in a way that's super realistic. It's aesthetic and comfy and flowing. The characters are realistic and down to earth, and the drama that comes from these interpersonal romantic relationships between the characters is absolutely the most realistic approach to middle schoolers that I've ever seen in any anime. Because there's no genre trappings in here. There's no tropes. There's like one misunderstanding that happens, and that's dealt with immediately and in a completely realistic manner. There's no over-the-top reactions. There's no sense of dramatism. There's no sense of over melodrama and over dramatization. It's all really solid, down to earth, and every single character in this show feels like a real person that could exist in the real world, that actually exists and probably exists in the real world. The interactions between the characters are all super sweet and just utterly nostalgic to anybody above the age of middle school, because like the way they text each other and the way they respond to text and the way they talk between each other in class and out of class and about their relationships and with their parents is so grounded in reality that I immediately felt a sense of relation with these characters, and it's super relatable in that sense. It portrays the kids in a super realistic way. That's all I'm trying to say. It gives you butterflies in your stomach remembering your middle school crushes and how you dealt with them, and it's just fascinating that way. A lot of that comes to the simple but stellar facial animations and character movements. Because it's trying to give this down-to-earth realistic feel to it, it has to pull off its character movements and animations super well, and it does that. None of the girls are overly cutesy and moe. Everyone sort of speaks in a regular tone. It almost feels like they got non-voice actors to do the roles, because the talking just feels so natural, and the way the speech patterns and the enunciations of words feel like actual people talk and not this hyper anime lingo that most anime protagonists use, which I find super fascinating, and the fact that the show pulls it off this well is honestly surprising. And also, as I mentioned before, the facial animations are all really subtle, but they're done subtle. They're done in a meaningful enough way to where you can immediately recognize what the emotions of the characters and what they're feeling just by their facial expressions and their movements. They got that down fucking fantastically. This is another solid to high quality show. Thing is, not a lot of people like the aesthetic because it's kind of rough. It's kind of it's not really aesthetically pretty to look at, like compared to something like Hibike Euphonium, which is beautiful to look at. No, this show's more like soft, smooth, and just kind of rustic in its beauty, and that's honestly how I tend to like it as much. This is probably, if not my favorite show of the season, top 3 definitely, and something that I'm always eager to watch. I do have some concerns of it, even though it hasn't shown it yet, which it could get really dramatic later on, which I don't want it to be, because sometimes real life, in that sense, in the middle school sense of relationships, it's not super dramatic, and I don't want it to be this overly melodramatic show with something like I don't know, Air or Canon or Clannad and stuff like that. A lot of people don't watch it. A lot of people have dropped this show mostly because they think it's boring. I think that's bullshit, because there's so much that can be admired from the sheer perfect approach to realism that the show is going for, which I have not seen any show do. And it's perfectly admirable because of that. It's a sleeper hit. Go fucking watch it. Really good. Next is Alice to Zoroku, or Alice and Zoroku. And while I'm sad to see it's not popular at all, really, and it's been getting okay scores, like, I kind of understand why. It was one of the first shows to come out this season. It came out in the same, oh god, hiccups. It came out on the first day of spring season, with shows to the degree of Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia, so it got utterly drowned in the hype of those shows. It couldn't have picked a worse moment to be released in the same day as those shows. Come on, that's not gonna happen. It's never gonna be popular that way. But anyway, the show is kind of like a more down-to-earth, mature, and political magical girl show, because the girls in this show are magical girls. The main girl, Sana, is a fucking magical girl. No matter what kind of scientific or existential thing they put it, she's a fucking magical girl. She's magical powers. She can create shit from nothing. She can fly. She can manipulate stuff. She's a magical girl. The best part of the show by far is Zoroku, is the grandpa, because he gets kind of roped into this pretty generic anime plot about magical girls fighting and about recovering a lost lover from the death and stuff like that, which is all pretty just whatever. But he's roped in, and this old man is just fun to watch the whole way through. He's harsh, he's abrasive, he's just constantly too old for this shit, and loves it. And just, he does not care whether he's being, there's this scene at the end of the first arc, like episode 4, where Sana is being like put on the ground and crushed by these gigantic hairy hands, and he's about to be killed himself, and he talks his way out by providing some real shit and some real fucking advice to the main bad girl of the first arc. Really good stuff. Super enjoyable character. He's so different and so creative in this world of generic anime protagonists that he is the real protagonist of this show. The magical girl, she's fun. She's just kind of cutesy and moe and cartoony, and can be serious and dramatic when she can, but not really fascinating. All the side characters are just kind of meh. The reason to watch the show is the interaction of the old man, because he carries the show. He definitely draws my interest as a purely different standpoint, because he's so different than anything I've seen before, and reacts so differently to everything that it's really fascinating to just watch him. He's probably one of my favorite characters of this whole season in general. So yeah. Anyway, that's Alice to Zoroku. Let's move on. The following show, which is honestly kind of a failure, is Sakura Quest. And I'm sad to say, it's kind of a disappointment. Not in the sense of quality, but in the sense of impact. And I had this fear from the very beginning. From as soon as it got announced, I really had this fear, because PA Works they've done shit like Angel Beats. They've done shit like, not even Angel Beats, but just Shirobako in 2014 is considered such a masterpiece by many people, and such a fantastic show, and such a high quality production in its writing, in its portrayal, and everything, that lightning was not going to strike twice for PA Works. And even though they put the same amount of hype behind this show as it did with Shirobako, there's no way. Especially if it's coming out the same season as the two big ones, which I'm not going to mention again. Just kind of feels sad, because I like this kind of show, this kind of adult-focused workplace show, because it's atypical. It's not samey. It's not high school. It's not, repetitive in that sense. Plus, it's in a scenario which I've never seen before, a rural town's tourism agency. That seems interesting to me. How are they going to change this boring old town into something that is very widely popular for tourists, and something interesting that connects with not only the cultural aspect and the ancient aspect of Japanese of Japanese history, but also with some new contemporary aspects that might draw more tourists in. And they've already proven that with some of the early episodes, combining some technology to, sort of improve the whole, workings of the agency, and combining some of the old, traditions, like the wood carvings. I don't really know their name, like the wood carvings, and being positioned in different places, and that draws attention to the old, sort of cultural aspect of this little town, and that's always fascinating. They're also tackling film, which, as a film student, is just perfectly interesting to me, because I want to see how this show portrays filmmaking, and it's done so relatively realistically, to a sense. I mean, I don't know how things work exactly in Japan, but they're portraying film and film production in a way that's realistic, and I always find that fascinating. But that's pretty much it. I mean, the thing with Shirobako, which make it so good, is that everything just kind of connects. Everything that's going on inside the studio goes and flows perfectly with the next. All the problems are caused by something that previously happened and are subsequently, resolved in a creative way that leads to the next problem in a smart way, and it all kind of flows together into this overarching narrative in the two cours that it had. Whereas with this show, everything is kind of divided into small, sort of individual arcs, 2 or 3 episode arcs that kind of tackle more individual people in the town and their specific input on the tourism aspect. Like the first couple episodes were just establishing the relationship and their relationships with the characters and where they are positioned in the tourism agency and what their roles are, establishing the main character's role as the queen. Then it moves on to this whole wood carving thing and trying to work out how to promote wood carving in a way that's creative, and they do that. And now it's moving on to a different arc, which is the filmmaking arc, which is the one I'm most passionate about. But there's no real connection between these arcs in a way that was present in something like Shirobako. It just kind of feels like a arc-based show instead of this overarching work-based narrative about about this tourism agency that could have been much more interesting. Again, I'm not much of a narrative writer, so I don't know how it could be done, but it could be done. It's there, but it just kind of blending in these different stories, which isn't really breathtaking or super amazing, honestly. It isn't. In short, it isn't the modern contemporary drama show about passionate people that Shirobako was, and that people are going to compare it to, ultimately. And that's ultimately what's killing it, is that Shirobako was such a fucking written masterpiece and so well produced that anything that's not that is immediately seen as just kind of mediocre. And the show's not mediocre. The show has interesting characters and character developments, because in these specific arcs, like characters kind of go through a motivational and sort of existential and progressive arc that kind of develops their characters and makes them learn something about not only themselves but also the other people in this group of girls and about the town themselves, while overall improving the state of the town in the process. I mean, the flow's there. There's definitely a sense of growth amongst the situation, and the town feels like the town. I mean, it doesn't feel like this vague place where nothing's really happening. It all feels kind of grounded. The show looks beautiful. The town's depicted in this beautiful way, kind of like Nanan Biori. The girls are all gorgeous. Character design's beautiful. Voice acting is all down to earth, realistic, even though it's a little bit moe-ish, but otherwise really would. The show, in my opinion, is just more style over substance. The substance really hasn't hit me yet. I just kind of like its relaxing, sort of down to earth and smooth nature to it, and its writing and just what's going on to it. The real you know, intense sort of edge of your seat moments that I got when watching Shirobako aren't here, which I think is the point. They wanted to make this more relaxing show about, you know, this sort of basic town, and that makes sense. That's perfect, but it's ultimately sad to see that it's going to be compared to something like Shirobako and other workplace comedies, even though this is not really a comedy, and Shirobako wasn't really a comedy either, but workplace drama in this case. I can't really say anything wrong about it either. There's nothing that really stands out to it. It's pretty good. It's like a solid 7 right now, for me at least. That's really all I have to say about Sakura Quest. One of the more fascinating shows this season, purely because of how it's being portrayed and perceived by fans, and kind of just sad to see it be one of the least popular shows this season, especially from such a good and you know, solid studio as PA Works is. So that's sad to see. Alright, so we've reached pretty much the point where the most important shows of the season are now over. All the shows that people care about, you know, those are kind of all in their center block, and those are already kind of discussed already. Discussed in depth what my thoughts on each show was, whether I dropped it or not. I've only dropped a few of those high ones, like 1 or 2. After this though, this is the point where it's the lower tier. This is where all the least popular shows of the season are, that I'm still sitting down and watching. Because who knows, there might be a gem here and there have been, and I'm going to talk about them right now. But I'm not going to talk about them in the same sense of analysis and depth that I have with the more popular shows, simply because they're not popular for a reason. Because they're not trying to be anything that isn't, you know, just kind of niche and specific to one circumstance and not really interesting particularly. They're just kind of there. So yeah, I'm just gonna go through these rapid fire, or at least in a faster way than I have with the previous shows. All right. The first one, Sin Nanatsu no Taizai, or 7 Deadly Sins, but not the A1 Pictures 7 Deadly Sins, not the Netflix 7 Deadly Sins. This one's an ecchi show, which is very hit and miss, because it can have some legitimately sexy moments in it, like episode 3, which was unbelievably hot, and just everything about it was so packed with sexual favoritism and sexual fan service that it was blinding because of how much it was, and it was really fun because of it. And then you have episodes like episode 4, which is super boring, where nothing goes on, and it's just utterly, like, there's not even any fan service in this ecchi show about sexy demons wearing scantily clad outfits. There's like one fan service scene in this entire episode. Very, very hit and miss. I'm still watching it because tits, obviously, and because there's this lolly that I want to see naked. But that's it. The show's uncensored on... You can probably find it uncensored on sites like Rheinweiss or whatever. That one has it uncensored, so you can watch it there. But there's nothing interesting. This show's based off of figurines. You can expect it to be nothing but just vapid fan service sexual trash, and that's what it is. I'm still watching this, so what the fuck am I saying? I'm not watching Berserk because I don't give a shit about the new Berserk. The next one is kind of just baffling to me. It's Seikaisuru Kado, or the one where the giant cube falls on the airport, and there's this whole political thing about this, powerful being that gives the humans this power for infinite energy. And it's fucking boring. It's unbelievably boring. There's nothing going on in this show. Because again, nobody feels anything. There's no emotional tension. There's nothing to go on. Because everything gets revealed in the first episode. Like, what is it? The plane gets swallowed by the box, right? And you're supposed to feel really tension about whether or not these 200 or something people have been killed or not. Well, 10 minutes into the first episode, they all revealed to be perfectly fine. What I would have liked to see is more the paranoia that sets in because of such an object, and that's not what you see. You just sort of see the main alien dude talk some bullshit with this other negotiator, which is nothing. Plus the show is a CG show, which I don't mind CG, but there's no reason why it should be CG, since there's nothing for it to be CG about. Like, the box itself could be CG and everything else could be drawn. But CG for the sake of CG-ness, there's nothing there. People are calling it this anime this season. I've seen this in a lot of lists. I saw Mother's Basement's Weebcast and impressions about this season, and all 3 fucking participants of the Weebcast were putting Seikaisuru Kado, or Kado or whatever, as one of their highest rated shows, and that's bullshit. Because there's nothing to this show. It's crappy political dialogue that's not actually political because nothing's going on. And it takes 3 episodes to even get the dude out of the fucking box that he's in, out of the interdimensional box. 0 stakes. There's no emotional investment. Just don't fucking watch it. There's so much better alien, like, invasion from another world, political distress drama that you can see out there. Much more. Next is Sugumomo. Just an ongoing battle because every episode is like, I'm so close to dropping it, and it just has to do one thing for me to drop it. It just has to have one slightly dull episode for it to drop it, and I'm ready to drop it so fucking hard. But then out of nowhere, it pulls this crazy, creative, and interesting premise, or this really, really funny joke that immediately gets me back into watching it. And that's just so frustrating because it's a mediocre show. The show's like a 5, like a borderline 5 out of 10 average in all extents show that I'm only watching mostly because of some interesting fan service that it has, and also some of the more creative comedic elements that it's possessed. Like episode 5 or 6, I don't remember right now. Was it episode 5 or 6? What is it? Episode 6 had this super cool premise about dating simulator games, and it was really done in a really creative and funny way. Even though it's been done before, it was done in a creative way that made me laugh, which was enough to keep me invested for another episode. But the next episode, I'm like, every single time the show comes up on Crunchyroll, wherever I'm watching it, and I see it there, and I can see the next episode, I'm like, I want to fucking watch it. Like, it's so lazy. It's kind of tiring at this point to even watch it, but I will continue to because there's some stuff that I legitimately like about it. But if it has like 1 or 2 like episodes that are just dull, I'm going to drop it. It's borderline interesting, which kind of sucks. It's just generic supernatural fan service show. The next one is Oshitsukoshi Haine, which is the yaoi bait show about the princes. First 2 episodes were fun. They were kind of comedic. The prince characters were all interesting to see, at least in their base personalities. But after the 3rd episode, there's no emotional stakes anymore. It was all just really boring dialogue. It's a chore even to put it up and start watching it. It's not interesting or exciting. There's no stakes to it. It's a cute boys doing cute things, but these boys aren't even that cute, and they're just kind of boring. Dropped. Natsume Yujin Shoroku, 6th season of Natsume Yujin Show. I've not seen the previous ones. I've heard they're pretty good. This is the highest rated show this season. It's like an 8.78. Of course, obviously, because anybody who watched all the previous seasons of Natsume Yujin Show is going to give it a great score, because they followed the show so far that they're going to fucking give it a great score. When a season goes this far, the score is going to be amazing. Which, I mean, kind of understandable. Natsume Yujin Show is pretty good, from what I've heard. Everyone kind of considers it a great show, actually. I'm gonna pick it up soon, probably. I don't know about it, but I didn't watch it. That's the point. Next is Fukumenkei Noise, or Anonymous Noise. It had some cool sequences in the first couple of episodes, and some kind of interesting character relationships, but after a while it just kept rehashing those relationships and just coming back to the same like character interactions, and the characters didn't really evolve over anything. It tries to play it off as super melodramatic when it doesn't have the chops for it, when it doesn't reach that level of melodrama that other shows of its ilk try to. It just comes off as really uncomfortable to watch, and just kind of, I hate to say it, but kind of cringe-inducing, especially with the main girl, because she's unbelievably socially autistic, and it's very obvious she's socially autistic, that it just makes every situation with her really uncomfortable, and it's just not fun. And the comedy always falls flat. It just comes out of nowhere and it falls flat. It's dropped. Jin no Guardian, I've already explained why the show sucks. Generic crap. Generic video game crap that has no visual style to it, no distinct nature to it. Protagonist is boring. Main girl's boring. She's a rich bitch. Dropped it after like 2 episodes. There's probably nothing to it. Nobody's watching it. Nobody's fucking watching Jin no Guardian, so drop. Hinako Note. This one's probably the only actual cute girls doing cute things show of the season, but this is just the epitome of moe blob. The characters are all one note and uninteresting. All the interactions are boring. There's no funny like character-based jokes, situation-based jokes. It's all just people talking. The acting thing has not even been touched upon, even though it's supposed to be like a main thing of the series. It's been 4 fucking episodes, and now nobody's even touched. Like, the acting is barely touched upon in the 4th episode. The first 3 are just establishing characters, where you could have done that in the first one, because the characters are so one note, and you could have done punchline in the other 3 episodes, instead of dragging this whole introduction of these one-dimensional characters or two-dimensional characters when they shouldn't have, and it just makes everything boring. There's one aspect of the show that is legitimately fucking hilarious, and that is the fact that there's a 9-year-old with huge tits. And that's fucking hilarious. Look up pictures of that. Because this little girl, she's like a tiny 9-year-old lolly, and she has tits bigger than anybody else in the entire show. It's amazing. And I cracked up so hard, I laughed for like 20 minutes straight. It's great. That's like the only reason to watch it. If you're just gonna watch it for the lolly with the big tits, just watch porn, man. Like, why suffer through this? I'm not watching Eccentric Family 2, so whatever. Next is Kenka Bancho Otome Girls Beats Boys, which is pretty decent, actually. The thing about the show is that it's kind of just a constant grind to the fight sequences because the main appeal of this show is the fight sequences. It's spurts. It's tiny spurts. The episodes are like 8 minutes long. There's 12 episodes to it in total, which are going to come out. But every episode just feels like a waiting game. A waiting game until you see that beautiful spurt of realistic hand-to-hand combat animation, which looks great and is so well directed. And I love the way it just flows, and just it's so fucking fun to watch. That makes watching the entire show worth it, mostly because the episodes are as short as they are. If this were a regular 22-minute episode show, I'd probably drop it because there just wouldn't be enough fighting to justify it. But since the episodes are 8 minutes long, the fighting sequences are about 2 to 3 minutes long each. Really fun stuff to watch. But it's just kind of fine. It's like a 6 out of 10. I'm not watching At the Beginning. I deliberately skipped it. I did not find anything interesting about it. People are like saying it's okay, but I don't really care about it. Again, 3 guys from Mother's Basement were talking about At the Beginning being in their top 3. I don't even care, man. Like, nothing about the show grabs me. Frame Arms Girls. I watched like 3 episodes. The first 2 really captivated me, and I thought it was really cute. And then just kind of devolved into stale series of pointless fights and just Yuri kissing for the sake of Yuri kissing. Look, I'm a Yuri guy. I like Yuri, but I like it when there's point to it and there's a reason, and it's not just these 2 lesbian sister robots that just kiss for the sake of it and kiss other characters, and there's blushing and these little toy robots, and it's just kind of fucking annoying. And it's like a little weird. It's like a weird combination of 2D and the real world. Like the actual people are drawn 2D, whereas the girls are 3D. I find that okay, like kind of interesting. But look, this is a show for bi-fags. If you have the figurines that this show came from, the fag figurines, the FAG figurines, then you're gonna like it, because they have all the figurines and they do weird shit. But if you just whatever, don't fucking watch it. It's pointless. The next one, it's Ito. I dropped it after 1 episode. It's boring. It looks like shit. The CG is just absolute garbage. It's just some absolutely generic and boring robot space stuff that makes no sense and nobody fucking cares about. People who are watching it are obviously saying it's the anime of the season. Just nothing to it, man. The robots look like shit. They're not memorable at all. I barely remember what happened in the first episode. I have like 1 or 2 memories of it, but I don't remember any of the characters, or like 1 character. I don't remember what was the plot. I don't remember anything. I just know that it was space and these like researchers, and they come across these like robot beings that like save them when they come across a situation, and the main girl like joins them. Look, it's just completely forgettable. Ito's shit, don't watch it. The next 2 shows are the last 2 that I'm going to talk about. Obviously, there's other shows like that really funny, or at least ironically funny, like adult Saitama, like bald guy porn thing, which is really funny, but that's just whatever. I don't really care about it. Just watch porn, dude. Next is Ani ni Tsukeru Kurusi wa Nai, which is a web series that all the episodes are on YouTube. They're all free, and they're all about 3 to 4 minutes each. Really, really funny. Surprisingly funny, actually, with some pretty fast-paced verbal comedy and a distinctive animation style, which I haven't seen in anime, at least, at all. It's just kind of this like flowy and curvature based and just kind of cartoony style that I've not seen. It's really endearing and I like it a lot. Thing is, nobody's watching it. They just have like 3,000 views on it, but it's really surprisingly funny. It's like this sort of relationship show about this brother and sister who are actually not romantically involved, believe it or not, or at least not yet. But they're just, the sister's kind of a bratty bitch, but like an enjoyably bratty bitch. The brother's just kind of a generic normie, which is also kind of fun to watch because he's a generic normie. He's fun to watch, and their talk and like their own like romances with other people are always fun. It's honestly another really solid show that should be watched by more people. And the last one I'm going to talk about is Warau Salesman New, which nobody's watching any of these shows at the end, but it switches from original creative stories with Moguru, with the main sort of apparition or monster creature, sort of tricking people into falling into their basest desires and making deals with them that ultimately destroy the lives of those involved. And it's always interesting to see how these people eventually succumb to their lusts and just fuck up their own lives. It's really fun in that sense. Sometimes it's just predictable. The episodes are divided into 11-minute pieces per episode, and it's just fun to watch Moguru's fucked upness. That's pretty much it. Alright, that's fucking it. That's it. As most shows, 2017, and all the shows that I've been watching, and all my opinions on them. When all the one cour shows are ended, which is 6 more weeks from now, when all the 12 episode shows have ended, I'll display all my opinions about only those shows that have ended and grade them and talk in depth about each one. But this is just a short, well, not really short because this is probably more than an hour long in total, but just a sort of quick update on my thoughts on the shows, if you even care about them, if anybody's even fucking watching this. This is mostly just for me. This is mostly just for my own sense of logging and sense of writing techniques and exploration of analysis. And I like watching shows anyway, so we'll go for it. This season's kind of disappointing a little bit. There's a lot of shows that are just mediocre and forgettable. There's a lot of shows that I've dropped because of that. A few really solid ones, 3 or 4 solid ones, a bunch of just mediocre ones, a bunch of shitty ones. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this whole crazy rant thing. If you have any opinion or want to display any opinion about any of these shows that I've talked about, please put it in the comments. If you don't have to. Again, this is just for me to watch. If anybody else is watching this, I don't really fucking care. So yeah. There should also be some other videos, shorter 3 to 5 minute videos sprinkled in and out with random ideas that I decided just to pour in because I can. So that's it. Alright. Have a nice day. See ya.